Hey everybody, welcome to another lunchtime live stream with This is Array. My name is Sean, and you guys know me. Today we're talking about influencer marketing. You might know that I'm a photographer, I'm a live streamer, and a content creator. Who you might not know is Michaela Ray, who is here. She is a podcaster, a cosplayer, and a dope-ass content creator.
Yes.
And also live streams on Twitch.
Yes.
And is generally just all over the internet at...
Well, everywhere. I am at MR and Ladylike everywhere. I have managed to actually lock that down on all the platforms that I'm on, which is nice because I get very confused very easily.
What are your two biggest properties that you're a part of right now?
Yeah, so the two projects that I'm working on right now are Brute Force, which is a podcast that's been going on for a few years. I was added a year and a half ago. I was a later addition to the cast. And then Segoy Corp, which I was also a later addition to, but we have branched out. And the Segoy Corp is who I Twitch stream with, and we are like pursuing marketing and monetization in different ways for both of those. So it's kind of confusing. I feel like I have a foot in like multiple camps, a lot of camps.
I think that's true for a lot of content creators. I think as a influencer, as a content creator, as someone making things online, you're someone who's responsible for production value. You're your own graphic artist often.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You are your own marketing department, and you are your own financial wizard.
Yeah.
You are the admin, the operations, and the CEO and creative director for your own company as you're an influencer.
Yeah, the way the community is now, especially when you're like the industry, when you're small, that is what you have to be. You have to start out like as a mogul, because if you don't have a team behind you at the beginning, so you have to do everything, and that means learning a lot of new things.
Yes, very much
having
so.
to like pivot really quickly and fix stuff when what you learned over like 48 hours wasn't perfection.
Some people go to business school and get lots of training and read lots of books, and some people look at a lot of YouTube videos and try to figure it out with friends.
Yeah, some people end up on a lot of blogs about editing and how to set up widgets. And, it's different for every person.
The good news is that you actually have the benefit of being part of two teams.
Yes.
So you have people there with you helping you and all those. Similar to here at Array, we have a whole team of people who help us with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I tried to do solo because I liked a lot of YouTube creators, and a lot of them, especially when they start out, are one-person teams. And so I tried that. I do a lot better with even just in the brainstorming process. Even if I'm the one doing most of like the nuts and bolts work, I just need someone to validate that like this is a good plan and this is a direction that we also like. I need some other like support behind me, because it doesn't happen if it's just on me.
Where do you think you shine the most in terms of content creation, and like what does your role end up being within your teams normally?
So I have a background in like stage comedy and improv and stuff, and so when I first joined the teams, I thought that was sort of my role, is that I just show up and I need to just like be on and be funny and do that. But as time has gone, especially in the past like 6 months or so, I've really started getting into more of the admin side and the like infrastructure behind it of like, are we communicating in the most effective way? Are we like marketing and promoting our projects in the most effective way? And I've got really into that in the past 6 months, and I'm actually, I think, like pretty good at that for having just started, and I enjoy that a lot. Scheduling out and making sure that we're like attacking things in a smart way, because you only get to like launch something once, and so you want to really like get excited about it and promote it in the most effective way and give your like little project the best chance to succeed. So I really actually enjoyed that more than I thought that I would. So.
Good. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That sounds like you're doing a lot of work and you're trying to keep on top of industry trends as they go forward.
Yes.
With Array, I know we work with a lot of traditional businesses. Influencer marketing is actually pretty new to that kind of audience. But influencer marketing has been around where some kind of influencer, micro-influencer, brand personality has teamed up with a larger brand or corporation to promote a product kind of since early 90s, where you would get, and it started with like NFL players, musicians, like we all remember Shaq on the Wheaties box way back in the day. We had Shaq on the Wheaties box, and then we get into the early and mid 2000s, and now it's not Shaq so much. It's people like Ninja. It's people like Shroud. It's people like even AI characters that we talked about in our first live stream, like Lil Michaela, who are like entirely are just entirely generated influencers.
Hatsune Miku.
Hatsune Miku,
Hatsune
yeah.
Miku.
So you get all these, you get basically a personal voice for your brand to connect with your audience. That's the idea behind influencer marketing.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big industry. It's an $8 billion industry as of 2018.
Which I honestly, I saw that stat in our notes, and I think that's like underselling it, because that's only reported deals, because it's very easy to get deals buried and have it not, especially when it's just an individual person.
Yeah.
When it's a team of one, it's very easy for not all deals to get like reported, and also that's not even counting PR. A lot of times that brands just want to reach out and start that like connection with an influencer, and so they'll send PR packages. I know that the beauty community does that a lot, and I know that Taco Bell very famously does that a lot of times. They recently opened a hotel and then invited a bunch of influencers that they appreciated, just so that they would post about it and talk about it and do videos about the Taco Bell hotel, which doesn't exist. It was only for that one weekend and only for influencers.
Missed opportunity to call it the Taco Bell Tell.
No, it was not. They drove right past that opportunity. They didn't miss it.
So we've talked about companies that have kind of like been on this trend. You have it's a lot of major companies like Coke. It's a lot of major companies like Taco Bell, KFC, Discord, Twitch, Wendy's, Twitch, and YouTube. So it's not just for mid-tier brands. Large brands are doing it. Like there's a lot of product being given out to people. There's a lot of co-sponsorships and deals, and it's kind of become a very pervasive trend throughout the industry. It's only expected to get bigger. It's expected to get to, I believe, $15 billion by 2022.
Yeah.
So it's you're in an industry that's on an uptrend. So what does that feel like? Do you feel like you're like riding a wave? Do you feel like it is at its peak? Do you feel like it's on like going to continue?
I feel like it's definitely riding a wave a little bit, because I feel like people are getting to a point now where they're way more comfortable with it. I think at the beginning, I think a lot of people were really wary of just like how is the longevity of this going to be, because the production value, like if you're competing with like streaming services and other forms of media, like old media, like TV, movies and stuff, the production value has to go up. And I think a lot of people were very wary that realistically you couldn't maintain that without a team of experts. But with like the way technology has gone and stuff like that, and how readily resources are available for you to learn how to do stuff on your own, it's like people are doing 4K streams on Twitch in like all by themselves, set up in little home studios. So I think it's definitely on an uptrend. It's definitely riding a wave. It's pretty saturated right now. So it's easy if you can't devote, like if you're not in love with your projects and you can't devote a lot of time, it's really easy for folks to fizzle out with it, especially with certain platforms like YouTube, where it takes a really long time to hit a monetization threshold, or Twitch, where it just requires a lot of time, because that's 3, 4, 5 nights a week for most people. So you can definitely fizzle, which is sort of one of the reasons why I've aligned myself with teams of content creators that want to do stuff. But I think it's definitely trending upward, and now getting in touch with advertisers and sponsors are so easy, because it's so welcome now and understood to do like sponsored streams and to do like sponsored posts and ads that way. So it makes the resources a lot easier to find. You don't have to just like Gmail, Google at john@tacobell.com. Please send me taco vouchers.
Doing wild Google searches for who is marketing director at X company. No, so I totally understand that, and it's interesting that you say that the field is saturated a little bit, or has become slowly saturated because of the low barrier to entry. We had a Marketers Anonymous talk a couple months ago about podcasting, and how the barrier to entry for podcasting has become so low now that we have pretty good microphones kind of everywhere. Even like anywhere down to like your Alexa, your phone, your computer, all have pretty good quality microphones, where if you just wanted to get an idea out and start something, you totally can. That extends to things like streaming and everything like that. I want to say the total barrier to entry after you have a computer to start a live stream is probably right around like $300. Like $300 and you can have a pretty decent setup.
Oh yeah, and that's starting at a pretty good level of quality too. Because I mean, people stream without like webcams all the time. People stream without audio all the time. So the barrier to entry is really low. It's all about what like what you want your content to look like. And sometimes that's very difficult because
Yes.
a lot of times for independent creators, usually we have had another independent creator that we really respected, and so I feel like a lot of times we are like chasing a quality that came before us, and so a quality
Yeah.
that's pre-established. But the barrier to actually enter and do stuff is so low. Yeah.
And that kind of like chasing a quality metric has kind of like influenced the entire community to become
Yeah.
more polished, more professional. And we've seen YouTube grow from this thing like that 10 years ago had the first YouTube Rewind that was really just a Watch Mojo video of the top 10 videos on.
Mojo video, yeah.
That was just
That's
the
what it
top
was.
10 YouTube
Yeah.
videos. And now, like last year, had this huge production that had Will Smith on the project.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like just within YouTube itself, like content creators have pushed themselves and pushed each other to
Well, I mean,
move forward to better content.
Even new platforms now are like are because platforms like YouTube and Twitch are setting such a high standard. Even newer platforms like TikTok, which has been around for just over a year, Will Smith is very popular on that platform. He has
Yep.
he has like a team of people working on his
Yep.
TikTok account on that platform.
With full visual effects,
Yes.
lighting.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of really cool visual effects and lighting techniques that are happening on TikTok that did not happen in the beginning of YouTube. For instance,
No.
there's a Beetlejuice meme on TikTok
Yes.
where people had been coloring their faces in different color makeup so that under different lighting conditions the makeup would show differently, and they could one person by switching a light could act two characters in one continuous take.
Yes.
Which is very creative and very interesting. And that, like, one person started that trend somewhere, and then it kind of caught fire because it was such an interesting idea. And the barrier to entry to do it is just one color changing LED light and makeup.
Yeah.
And a phone. So the influencer marketing industry is very, and just like the content creation industry is very interesting in that people push other people forward constantly. And because of that, it is also a very competitive space, no matter in the content that you're making, but also on the platforms you're promoting on and the platforms you're crowdfunding and sourcing on.
Yeah.
Things like Kickstarter, Patreon, and even like pushing for subscriptions and bits on Twitch and other platforms that include on-platform payments. How do you stay ahead in that sort of realm? So
I think you just have to be really mindful of when you roll things out. I think a lot of people have an idea and they get excited about it, but their excitement has like they're worried that their excitement will have a ceiling, so they want to push it out as quickly as possible instead of really take time to promote it really well and to make sure that you're tackling it like the best way. So, like there are a bunch of crowdfunding sites that are not in the space of like say like Twitch and YouTube, which both have options to like donate to the creators or like join their community and directly help to fund them and what they're doing. A lot of people have used offsites like Patreon and Kickstarter for so long that sometimes they feel like they have to go to those spaces because that's where you go to do things when there are other options that are probably more effective in like a long-term sense to familiarize yourself with. So it's hard because I know a lot of independent creators that have set up, they've been doing like a podcast or doing a show or something for a year or so, and they feel like now is the time that they need to monetize. They want to start covering the costs of hosting, all that, and they just sort of migrate to whatever platform they are comfortable with. I know a lot of people that have gotten comfortable with Patreon and they just migrate to Patreon without, maybe the best attack plan or knowing maybe a much like steadier, better for longevity source for funding. So you have to tackle it in an intelligent way. And sometimes I feel like people just want to like get started and do it instead of really take a step back and think about how they're going to manage that.
So we talked about technology being a
Yes.
pretty low barrier to entry. You would say that this kind of thing where the monetization, the long-term monetization of your content is much more technical, much more needs to be planned. It's not as much of an off-the-cuff thing that a lot of people are going to intuitively get, like the equipment that you might need for a YouTube channel or something like that.
I think so. I definitely think that is where a lot of people tend to falter because there's options, and a lot of times people are aware of the options but they don't know the differences between them, like the just knowing the rules of the platform. Like take Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a platform which is nice because it gets more eyes on it than just you direct to Kickstarter, because there are people that just look through Kickstarter for certain projects to fund and things like that. But Kickstarter has a 1 month like time period. It has a set beginning and a set end. So if you wait to promote it once it's started, then that significantly limits the amount of time that you have for people to notice your content. You have to promote early on Kickstarter because there's only a month. And if it doesn't get funded, nothing happens.
Yep.
And there's also some like pitfalls kind of built into some of those. So with Kickstarter, no credit cards, like nothing gets charged until the very end.
Yes.
So people can say that they're going to donate $10,000 to your Kickstarter, and then at the very end, it tries to charge their credit card, and it comes back like it declines it, and then you just don't get any of that. But
you don't get any of that payment, but they'll
No.
still put your Kickstarter through.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You will lose out on. You can lose out on significant portion of money. You should expect to lose a percentage of Kickstarter funds that are
Yes,
committed
you should.
during a project.
Yeah, it's a gross 10%. And once again, this is just knowing like helping with I have helped with Kickstarters. I haven't ran one personally. But I have friends that have done multiple very successful Kickstarters, and I have helped behind the scenes of them. So this is just stuff that I've learned by like having to do it, and that's sometimes having that like repetition is very difficult for new creators that don't have a big team or like a lot of friends in that community space to then ask. But yes, I learned that Kickstarter takes a blanket 10% off the top, and that really isn't including like the pitfalls of, well, what if someone's card gets declined, or like you can go in and change your pledge. So which is nice for the consumer. You know, it's nice if you say that you're going to do the $50 pledge here, and then you realize like, actually, maybe I don't want to commit to that.
Rent's a
take
little
it back
tight
to 20.
this month.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
should
yeah.
bring it back. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah, but it does like, you know, for the content creator, it is kind of difficult to see pledges go down and things like that. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind when you do certain platforms, and I think a lot of people jump to a platform that they're just familiar with because they think that's where it belongs, when it would probably be more successful if you planned it out and went a different way.
I know we talked a little bit about kind of off camera and off this live stream.
Yes.
We've talked about you helping to build the Patreon
Yes.
for Brute Force, correct? And you were talking about specific steps that you're trying to take to make that Patreon more viable and more deliverable
Yes.
to your audience in a way that doesn't cost you or the team as much money, but just time and energy.
Yeah.
Such as minimizing physical rewards.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about your process on like planning that Patreon out? I know not everything about that is public right now, so this is actually like a little bit inside look into your process for that.
Yeah, so we are, Brute Force that I joined later, they had a Patreon when I joined, and it was just sort of, it really needed a revamp. We really needed to change some stuff up and fix what we were doing, because it was just not maintainable. The reward tiers and things like that they had set up were just not, like longevity wise, it was just going to be impossible to actually keep up with. So we are relaunching it in the new year. So we're like in the midst of planning all of that. Patreon is an evergreen like crowdfunding platform. So if you don't know what Patreon is something where you can sign up and you pay something per month to continue to get access to their Patreon feed. So usually the way that content creators do this is that there are certain tiers that you can pledge at, and there's usually a easy entry like $1, $2 tier that gets you access to the feed, but then at higher tiers like $5, $10, $25, up to like I've seen $100, $200 a month, they have obviously extra content for each of those to justify the payment. But therein an issue lies, because that is every single month that payment is going to go out, which means that there needs to be new content, there needs to be something new to give the consumer to justify this every single month. So when you plan out a like Patreon system, it has to be something that can be maintained and updated every month, pretty much. That is, especially if you're smaller. If you are a very large creator, a lot of times you can drum up interest in your Patreon just from supporting you or getting content early, which is easy to maintain. But if you're a smaller creator, you really need rewards to make it a lot more, make it look a lot more interesting to a consumer and to a listener that wants to support you. So in Brute Force, what we're doing is just we have a tier that is going to get you access to like the episodes that we're already doing early, which is our like lowest tier, because it's really easy for us to maintain. We just release it in a different place early. And then we have a tier that is all like auditory rewards. So it is a podcast, and so the people that listen to it and the audience that we have are people that enjoy listening to auditory only content. So there is a tier.
So bonus content makes sense.
Yeah, there's a tier that is like bonus audio content, and we have like a plan. We have multiple different sources for that, so they don't require the full cast, because that's a main barrier for creating extra content for podcasters, is especially when we are not all local. We are very spread apart, and so scheduling us sometimes is difficult. So if we needed the whole cast to be there for extra content, that's a huge barrier for us to actually put out extra content. So we have things set up so that it only requires 1 or 2 people for certain things, and sometimes only just one person. Yeah. So we have extra audio content. We have an entire tier that is dedicated to like digital rewards. So it's going to be it's a real play podcast, and so it's very much in the board gaming and tabletop sphere. So we have a lot of rewards in our like digital media tier that feed into that talk about the system and talk about, so you'd be getting like PDFs and various digital things, various like images and things like that are like of the characters on the podcast, so or like of the lore that we use and things like that.
So like accessories that evoke the universe and the feel and the characters that are not essential to the listening experience, obviously, but just go further to flesh out what already exists and kind of reward those people with more information who have given their support.
Yeah, it helps folks like dig deeper into this little world, this little universe that the story takes place in, and gives them a little bit more, not like spoilers, but just behind the scenes that you can't get into, because when you're in the middle of like doing a scene or something like that, you can't really take a side and you're like, okay, so I said this because if you can remember from 40 episodes ago, or like we've never delved into it, but this is how this works.
Yeah.
So that's a place where we can really spread that out and lay that out. And,
sort of like if you would buy a Blu-ray or DVD, then you would have special features on there with director commentary, with maybe inside the look of the setting and that kind of thing. So it's taking that model of a more traditional media, applying it to a crowdfunding source, and then kind of spinning it towards your own auditory bent as far as brute force goes.
Yeah. So that's our main plan right now for the brute force Patreon, which is exciting. A lot of people that really succeed on the Patreon platform are people like photographers and models and things that can release photo sets and varying levels of photo sets. Those are really successful on that platform, because it's content that you can keep churning out each month.
Yeah.
It's the folks that try to do physical rewards, or they try to commit to like bring people on as guests for supporting, which sounds great, but then you have scheduling to think of, and that's not every month, because if you bring a guest on every single month, then they're just part of cast.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's also difficult because you don't have any control over what their setup is like, or how they would fit in with the cast. So that's a lot of the pitfalls that tend to come with people that do like Patreon with content that just doesn't super make sense for that platform.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Kickstarter is great for physical rewards. Yep. It can sometimes be a pain to get them out, because if you have 400 backers and they all get t-shirts, that sounds cool, but now there are 400 t-shirts in your home that you have to then package, and you have to think of shipping costs. And like I had a friend who did a Patreon, and a Kickstarter, and he sent his rewards out, and when he set the Kickstarter and he totaled everything up, one of the things that he was doing was flash drives with extra digital content, which was a great idea. Very
solid flash drives. I saw them. They are immaculately done, and they sound expensive by where this is going.
Oh, they're great. They're absolutely great. When he said it, he got like price points and everything, and so he was really being intelligent about it. This was not his first rodeo. And then a tariff law got passed, making things a lot more expensive to import from China, and that's where the flash drives were coming from. So his flash drive budget like skyrocketed, and that all comes out directly of like his profits because there's no fail safe for things like that. So he had to spend a lot more money on these very nice flash drives because of like tariff laws, and you just can't control stuff like that. So
and it turns out that a lot of the same stuff that can happen in any business, i.e. tariff laws or any kind of unforeseen circumstance that can become an issue, can also happen to content creators and individual creators. So that's just one more thing that you have to deal with in this growing online landscape. And I would love to continue talking. We're just about at time. So if you want to go ahead and just promote where people can find you, where they can find Brute Force and Sequoia Corp, or if there's anything else that you would like to promote that's coming up, please let us know.
Yes, I am. If you're looking for me and to contact me personally, I'm on just like every platform you'd want to find me on. I spend most of my time on Twitter, probably at MR Unladylike, which is just my initials and then Unladylike. I'm not really that I'm not really that fancy about it, but I my podcasts are available. Like we host on Libsyn, so they're available on any podcatcher app, and those are Brute Force and Sugoi Corp, which is SUGOI. That's a Japanese word, so that's. But yeah, those are my two main projects. Sugoi Corp is also very active on Twitch, so we have links to everything in all of our Twitters and on Twitch and. Everywhere you need to find me. If you find me anywhere, it's pretty easy. Yep, it's Sugoi_Corp on Twitter. Now that Sean is just reminding me.
And you do live streams on Twitch with Sugoi Corp as well, correct?
Yes, and that's Sugoi Corp _. We are going to try to take the Twitter account. We are. It's inactive, and Twitter is launching a new thing.
That's right. They are doing that.
Twitter is cleaning out inactive accounts, and so we're hoping we lost Sugoi Corp, _, and so we're hoping to regain it soon.
In the great Twitter war that's probably about to start.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so hopefully there won't be an _ soon. I hate it. I want them to all match.
I as someone with non-matching social media profiles, I can sympathize.
I give him a lot of grief for that.
A lot. An inordinate amount. And we've gone an inordinate amount of time, so thank you guys so much for coming and enjoying this lunchtime live stream that we have. If you notice, we have a new domain that you can now see live streams at. It's thisisarray.live. We're going to be featuring our live stream on different platforms over the course of weeks. If you go to that domain, it will send you to one of the live streams right when we go live. And until then, it will send you to this next platform that we plan on using for that. And we will be back next Friday at 12 noon to talk to you about more business tips leading into 2020, likely talking about 2020 trends. And if you want to learn more about that right now, you can go to thisisarray.com, and we have an ebook on our website for the best marketing trends of 2020. You can get that right now, and when you sign up to download that, we'll also sign you up for our newsletter. And Ray, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast again. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for
coming on the live stream. I called it a podcast.
You did call it a podcast.
That's okay.
Which is funny because you don't podcast and I do. And
it's
so
fair.
It's funny that you would get that confused. But
it's a real Freaky Friday moment.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Jamie Lee Curtis, so I have to go.
I hope you have a wonderful Freaky Friday yourself and enjoy your holiday. Merry Christmas and happy holidays from all of us at This Is Array.
Mm-hmm.